All right, we are live right now. The polls are about to close in New York City just now. Polls are about to close in New York City just in about a few seconds. Uh, going to be a very interesting night. That's all I'm going to say right now. It's really not going to let me say. All right. All right. So polls have closed here in New York City. Results are about to come in very soon. So we got the candidates: Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York; Zoran Mondani, the state assembly member; Brad Lander. I forgot what he is. We got Scott Stringer. He ran. He was one time a front runner in 2021. Adrian Adams. We have Zara Mari, Jessica Ramos, Paperboy Prince, Michael Blake, Whitney Tilson, and some Salima Bartholomew. About the only three candidates have a really shot tonight. We have, and wow, and we immediately get our first 38% of the vote has just came in. Zoran Madani has a lead of about over Cuomo by about 40-ish thousand votes. Lander has 54, Adams 18, Stringer 8,000. The rest have less than a percentage. So 38% already in. So Madani getting 51% in Brooklyn, 45% in Queens, 37% in Manhattan. Cuomo getting 54% in Bronx. Cuomo getting 51% in Staten Island. Whoa. And results just came in very quickly here. All right. Joining us now is tuning out the static. Remember, he's on Substack. Uh, I'll put his Substack in the description at the end of the stream. And here we go. We have Dante here. He is muted, but Zohan just starting off with a 39, 30, a 43, 40, 34 lead over Cuomo. All right, Dante, what's going on with this early vote? I think, is this early vote?
Yeah, so I believe this is all the early votes, including mail-ins and early in-person votes, because it's about 410,000 votes.
Oh, so we had 400. So we had 410,000 vote early.
This is a good.
So how many do you know? Did you know how many people voted today in election day?
I was hearing some. I have to look. I was hearing somewhere because we're thinking we crossed 1 million votes, so 410,000, that'd be about 700K. I'd have to look. I don't have an exact number. Remember, polls are still just closing. People in line can still vote. So yeah, Zoran 43.1 to 34 lead over Cuomo. Remember, we expected him to be strongest in the early vote. We expected Cuomo to be stronger in the election day vote. If this is all the early vote and we're just getting election day vote from here on out, we'd expect Cuomo to start trying to cut down on this lead, maybe take the lead. Obviously, the question is who finishes in first at the end of round one, and how close is it? If we look at the boroughs, Zoran up 4 points in Manhattan, 19% for Bradley.
So
yeah, Zoran's up.
So Lander is going to be a very
he's a factor. Yeah,
Lander and Zoran co-endorsed.
Yeah, if you look at the Manhattan numbers, especially look at Lander's got 19% there.
Ooh. So
he's got 14% in Brooklyn, and we just got some more votes, and it changed absolutely. Yeah, it changed nothing. It's like everything's the same. I don't know where those came from. Cuomo's leading where we expected him to lead. He's up big in the Bronx. He's up big in Staten Island.
Well, I saw from the sources you sent earlier, Staten Island, basically nobody voting there.
Queens is better for Zoran.
Staten Island.
Yeah, Staten Island. Honestly, it could have been worse. I feel like for Zoran. I've been sending a lot of the Michael Lange posts. I think he had Staten Island going for Cuomo like 60%, although that might have been in the final round. So do with that what you will. But that's not awful for Zoran there. It's just very few votes, you know. Of course, we expect that Cuomo will gain because the election day votes there. We think that the early votes in Staten Island would favor. But it's just a very small part of the electorate, obviously. You know, it's shifted quite a bit right. If we're looking at the rest of the list, no other candidate is a factor. So Adrian Adams is just 4%.
So obviously, all eyes are Manhattan. That's the biggest population center in the city.
Yeah.
What is the big deciding factor here in Manhattan?
Well, as you can see early on, it's very close with Mamdani with a 4-point lead. We expected this one to be a toss-up going into it, and it's certainly the closest of the four boroughs so far, and a lot of that is because Brad Lander is taking 19% there. I don't know if that's his home base for sure, but clearly he's got strength there.
All right, let's so Lander so far as 13%. He's getting 19 in Manhattan, correct? And 14 in Queens. And I'm assuming once he's eliminated, those will go to Zoran, right? I'm assuming, right?
Well, that's the assumption we're making. We don't know for sure. This is it's a little bit of a weird match because, quite frankly, Adrian Adams has collapsed. She's only at 4%. That's we'll see if she improves in the E-Day votes, but as that stands, I mean, she was averaging 8 to 10% of the polls. Meanwhile, Brad Lander is overperforming his polling a bit.
So let's just say none of these guys down here matter. It's just these four: Lander, Adams, Cuomo, Mamdani. That's the ones that really are the ones in this race right now.
I wouldn't even put Lander as in the race, but he's just going to be a big factor in who ultimately wins it.
So a lot of people have been talking about the political parties and stuff of that matter. Like Zoran, maybe going and Cuomo, both are probably most likely going to be in the general election anyway. So what's the deal about that?
That appears to be the belief, yes. New York does not have sore loser laws, meaning that those who lose a primary can run in the general election. Cuomo has already set up the infrastructure to do so, and we expect that if he loses the nomination, he will run against Mamdani. If Cuomo wins the nomination, we expect that the Working Families Party, which usually just endorses the Democratic nominee, will run a candidate. That could very well be Mamdani. He would certainly be their number one option. But they have also shown support in the past for Brad Lander. They've shown support for Adrian Adams. They've also included Zelnor Miri, who's here at 1.1%, but is also on their slate. So it could be any of those candidates. We don't actually know for sure what that would look like. I would just presume Mamdani would be the most likely candidate. He certainly left it open to running in the third round, but yeah.
So when do you think we'll get the final? How often do you think the rounds could come in? Are we just gonna get every round today,
Well,
or
no,
is it gonna take a
we
couple
got some votes,
days?
and yeah, small gain
As
for
we just got some
Cuomo.
more.
I wonder if that's our first election day vote. Very slight gain for Cuomo, but it also wasn't that many votes. Not sure where it came in from. We're just gonna get round one today.
So are we gonna get like rounds in the next couple of days, or is it just gonna be next week? All of them just gonna come in next week.
I believe it's all next week, next Tuesday.
All right. So here's the margins. Mandami leads by 5,000 in Manhattan. Uh, in the Bronx, Cuomo leads by about 8,000. About 8,000 for Cuomo. And Queens, Zoran leads by about 7,000. And then in Brooklyn, Zoran leads by, whoa, that's
Yeah,
35,000?
that was expected to be his strong point. Frankly, the place where he's really overperforming so far is Queens. We'll see if election day changes that. But honestly, the expectation was that Brooklyn was his strongest area, and then Manhattan would probably be his second strongest area. But Queens so far has been his second strongest area, although Cuomo did gain a bit there with the last few vote drops. And then we really expected, the
So
Bronx to
Cuomo
be very
leads by
strong.
2K in 10. So we have, there's the margins right now. So very good early vote for Zoran. He probably won a little bit more, but what's his
Yeah,
target for today? Ideally first. Ideally first for him, but
he wants to
what
be at
is
first.
like
If I would say that if he's within three, he's probably fine, or at least in the game. I think he probably wanted to be up in double digits after the early votes came in. But we'll see. This is not good for Anthony
well
Weiner.
at the early votes he wait, is
He's
he
in
in
fourth.
is he running? I don't see him over here.
He's in the city council section. He's in the second district. He's in fourth place. I'm looking around at some of the other elections.
Oh my god.
Looks like Jermaine Williams is on track to easily win re-election in the public advocate race. He's at 73%. And comptroller, the Democratic nominee here might win out. The Democrat Mark Levine might win outright here. He's at 49%. Yeah, I think I'm not going to call all of these, but I think the public advocate race. Yeah, that's probably over. I think Marty Dolan's name looks familiar to me. Yeah, a big early storyline in this mayoral race has been the complete collapse of candidates outside of the top three. Adrian Adams is the biggest surprise, but outside, there's like, I mean, outside after you get past Lander, and there's no one else really even registering right now.
Stringer was pretty much a front runner in 21,
Yeah, he was.
and right now he's not even clocking in at 2%.
He early in that race pulled at times as high as second or first. I think he was generally in third place, but he was very much in that race until scandals kind of took him down. He finished, I think he won about 5% of the vote. He finished in like fifth place. Never really gained much traction in this mayoral bid. He kind of relied on name recognition to get anywhere, but just didn't really have a base anymore. And I think his past scandals have not been forgotten by voters.
So what you sent me from from election for UMass voter, it's he had we got very far from the hour half from 6 p.m. to 7:30, which was an hour and a half ago. We had Brooklyn added 34,000, Manhattan 25,000, Queens added 24, Bronx 12,000, Staten Island 3,500. We don't have the final tally of the final hour and a half, right? Yet.
No, I don't think so. And frankly, we probably won't get one. They'll probably just like release results at that point. I will say about the early votes, I don't know what percentage these are mail-ins and what percentage these are in person, but we did expect the mail-ins to favor Cuomo more, and the in-person ones to be more favorable to Zoran. I think it's both combined. Like I think they've counted basically all of them, but that could be like kind of an explanation for maybe why the final margin here is a little weaker than some people would have expected for Zoran. Okay, so yeah, we just
And we
saw a
just got some more votes. Cuomo is gaining.
little gain, little gain for Cuomo, little gain for Zoran, and some loss for Brad Lander, who falls under 13%.
Right now, Lander's still at 19% in Manhattan.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we're gonna have to wait for the ranked. We're gonna have to wait for the tabulations, basically. Obviously, I think it's clear no one's going to get over 50% here because Zoran's only at 43, and we think he's going to be losing votes for the most part the rest of the night, not gaining them. New York Times says more than 90% of the city's votes in the 2024 presidential election were counted by midnight on election day, so that's pretty optimistic.
And what I'm seeing here is all this is that last check about 3 hours ago, but Manhattan was close to their 21 turnout. Brooklyn was close. Queens and the Bronx were getting there, and Staten Island was going to fall short.
Yeah,
So
Staten Island is not
that's
going to come close to it.
that seems very. That sounds right now good for
I
Zoran,
mean, you'd
but
think
again,
that all, but certainly he'd want his. For those, I think I've explained this. Yeah, so basically the ranking of like where we expected in a toss-up race, where we expected these boroughs to be is uh, Brooklyn lean Zoran, Manhattan toss up, Queens lean Cuomo, Bronx kind of safe Cuomo, Staten Island heavy Cuomo. So far Zoran's doing as you'd expect. Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten Island all going as we expect. Zoran is surprisingly strong in Queens. He's a bit weaker, I think, in Manhattan than people expected, which could in part be explained by Brad Lander's incredibly strong performance there, where he's pulling nearly 20% of the vote. The big question, obviously, is going to be Who did Lander supporters follow the cross endorsement?
So with 40% in, this is a very solid start for Zoran.
I think a lot of the Queen stuff, based on what I'm seeing, is likely because the Asian vote for Mamdani was about as nuts as the polls predicted it was going to be. That Emerson poll had him winning Asian voters in the city like 80-20. Yeah, he's gotten absurd margins among Asian voters.
And there's more votes.
And that was
Zoran
a
and
big
Cuomo game.
And everyone else lost them. It was a bigger gain for Cuomo than it was for Zoran, but yeah, Brad Lander's starting to lose some of his stature here. Oh, we got more votes.
And there comes some more votes.
Didn't really change much of anything.
We're already about halfway through.
Kyrie Irving has signed a 3-year, $119 million extension.
That's crazy. And
there's
here's
a gain for Cuomo. That was a gain for Cuomo and a loss for Zoran.
Where did it come
from? Let's see. I think maybe Brooklyn. Yeah, I think it was Brooklyn.
I'm assuming it's Queens.
Yeah, we're starting to get E-Day votes, and Staten Island is already at 78% counted. Wow, that turnout's going to be ugly. Why is Staten Island kind of close? Almost got.
Cuomo's only down up 2,000 votes here.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. That's bizarre. He's dominating Bronx as we expected. Yeah, I think some of those votes gains for Cuomo there was he cut into the lead in Brooklyn in a bit. It's still obviously like overwhelmingly leaning towards Zoran, but he did cut into the lead a bit there.
Yeah, Zoran leads by about 21 points. Lander's lead has got cut down too. It went from 14 to 13. Lander's lead in Lander's margin also got cut in Manhattan.
Yeah, he's losing. He's kind of falling back here, which is probably expected. I don't think anyone. I don't know that he was expected to have super strong results. Zoran's holding up, but we got to keep waiting for to see more results come in. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Staten Island. Adrian Adams only has 4% there. I'm wondering if there's like another candidate, maybe like Whitney Tilson's pulling like 2 or 3%. It only shows the top 4 candidates in each area, and everywhere it is some combination. Basically, everywhere it's either Cuomo or Mamdani in first and second, and Lander in third, except for the Bronx, where Adrian Adams is in third over Lander. But it's the same top 4, which pretty expected if you look at polls.
And there goes some more votes. And Cuomo actually lost. Some votes here.
Yeah, and Zoran gained a few.
Margin and
yeah, he it's really it's like percentages. Let's see. That may have been. I think that was from Queens. I think that was Queens. It could have been. I think it was Queens. Yeah.
If he's gaining in Queens, that's some good news for him.
That would be solid for Mamdani. Yes.
Right now, his lead is 47,000 votes, roughly 47. So
this is tense.
Again, obviously, this is too close to call, and it will be for a long time.
Perhaps, although I will say that considering New York's past, this isn't actually that bad for them. Like they've kind of worked through this pretty well. Last year it took 2 weeks.
Like 3 weeks 4 years ago.
To be fair, in 2021, it was their first time doing the ranked choice, I think, and of the pandemic, there was a lot of issues. So I'm not trying to defend it, but I'm just saying that there was like reasoning.
And for a lot of people out there, they don't understand ranked choice voting. So, can you explain ranked choice voting?
So my one question is, are we getting election day drops now?
It drops. That's good. And we just sitting and Zoran Solid is not getting chunked as much as the Cuomo side is expecting. That's great news for Zoran. Obviously, the big base for Cuomo is Bronx. It's 50% in, 49% in. So a lot of votes for Cuomo is expected to come out of Bronx. So a lot of questions is what's going on with what is ranked choice voting. It's basically if you can rank in New York, it's up to 5, correct? It's up to 5.
Yes, it's
You
five
rank 1 through
candidates.
5, and every round, like you're one. If you're first preferred candidate to eliminate first, it goes to your second, so on and so forth until we have a winner. So it's going to be a while until these RCV votes start impacting the race. Like, like it will
Yeah,
start being
a big part of it's
impactful
because
when we
of
get to
the
like
batch
Adams or
elimination.
Stringer.
Yeah, part of that is because of batch elimination. We're essentially in. So you look at the write-ins, and you could eliminate the write-ins, and you could basically if two candidates combined aren't enough to leapfrog one candidate. Like if I gave all of Scott Stringer's votes to Adrian Adams, she would not be able to leapfrog Brad Lander, right? So in that case, you just eliminate
Mm-hmm.
both and make it quicker. So there's a good chance we'll see some batch eliminations throughout this race. And yeah, this is much more as we this is much less crowded than 2021. 2021 had like it was kind of a three-way race at the top, and then you had Yang getting like 15%, Stringer at like 5%. As this race again, we've talked about it a lot. Once you get past Blander, it just drops off completely. I mean, Adrian Adams is kind of laying a pretty big egg so far, and I am. This is not shocking at all, but I am reading online now that Scott Stringer is conceding.
All right.
He is sitting at 2% in fifth place. He actually finished in fifth place in 2021 too, but I think he got about 5-6% that year. So yeah, pretty long political career that we'll see if it's coming to an end. I will note that he is very good friends with Representative Jerry Nadler, who may be retiring at some point in the near future. And I think he lives in the district, so do with that what you will.
In 2021, this went into 8 rounds.
I think frankly, uh, Staten Island, 88% in. It is still just 11 points for Cuomo.
That's actually shocking.
That is stunning. That is genuinely like stunning. We'll see, but he'll probably gain
That's
in
why
RCB. But
very
this is a very weak first round performance in Staten Island for him.
that this is actually if it doesn't get above 20-point lead, that's actually bad news for him.
That's an incredibly random result. And we are up to 62%
Yeah,
in.
that does.
Mamdani is still up 8 points. This is Mamdani is more than alive. Again, it's going to keep getting closer. We still have a bunch more big primary day vote drops to gain, but he added to his lead in the last one. Also, I'm seeing a couple places online that, obviously this is probably expected. She more or less kind of dropped out and only has 0.4% of the vote. But people online who have access to those results are saying that Mamdani is going to carry Jammus's state Senate district easily. I'm just going to send this in the group chat, but I'm also going to say it on here. Please ignore the betting markets. Do not listen to the betting markets.
Yeah, the betting markets were very, very have been all very
not helpful.
Interesting part of elections now. Yeah, like the betting markets always had Trump up in 24, but again, never buy the betting markets because
oh shit, they have a precinct map. I didn't realize
Wait,
they had a precinct
what?
map.
Where's the precinct map?
Right,
oh shit! They just put it up. They just put it up. All right.
And I have 2021 precinct map. So I'm not a direct person, but I'm gonna hand this over just so you can look. Really voters. So this is
holy crap! All right.
You can see the Lander precincts, and you can see the Lander precincts in Brooklyn. It might not be loading.
All right, so here we go.
I can see it. Oh, there we go.
This could be a better version of because representation of what we.
This could be a little more helpful, honestly.
The results here.
I'm gonna keep the other one. I'm gonna keep the other one up. I'm gonna keep the other one just so we can see where votes are coming from. But I'm probably gonna use this to like determine how I'm feeling about the state of the race. And you can see if you look in the Brooklyn area, you can definitely see where Brad Lander's support is.
Yeah, there's a random precinct here, and
there's an Adrian Adams precinct.
Queens. Yes. All right, votes to switch.
I found one. I found one in Brooklyn. I just got 4% is enough. Oh, we just the votes. Cuomo gained a bit. Lander lost a bit. He's holding up.
Zoran's holding up. Lander is gaining. No, Lander's losing. Cuomo's gaining. Zoran's just staying steady.
Some of the bearish Zoran people, like some people bearish on Zoran, saying there's a real chance that he leaves the round one.
And if he leaves round one, it's pretty good news for him.
That's definitely good news for him. The one thing you would wonder about is shy Cuomo voters who may be ranked, Lander voters who may be ranked Cuomo second. Lander has support the Jewish community. Obviously, that's been a point of contention. So support among Jewish voters. So we'll see. He's going to need from maybe Adrian Adams. He's only got 4% at this point. No one else is even in the stratosphere. And honestly, some of these votes, like Michael Blake, only 0.4%, but you'd expect Zoran probably win most of those. This is This is crazier. This is kind of crazy.
Yeah, like this is a political upset if he holds on. Like,
With 7%, just like we're waiting for Cuomo to make up the margins. We're watching. We've been as the vote drops come, and they've dropped votes in pretty big batches. I think it was 60, went to like 60 to 70% a bit ago, and Cuomo did gain a bit, but he's not he's not closing the gap enough right now. So we'll see.
yeah,
Still only 70% in, but you can definitely see why there would be concerns in the Cuomo camp right now.
yeah, and we've been hearing a lot of reporting different like feelings from the Cuomo camp all day, saying it was bearish at like first, and
Yeah,
then
well, earlier in the day, it seemed like the turnout was lagging behind where he'd want it to be, and then later on, it seemed like it was getting better.
it, but it seems like the turnout could be in Zoran uh, territories, which could be amazing news for him, especially if he holds the lead.
Yeah, I'm looking at Twitter. Yeah, I'm being patient, but it's we're just I'm gonna wait for more drops. But yeah, Mamdani, I don't think anyone. I didn't. I predicted he would win. I feel like I was a pretty big Mamdani optimist. And I did not think he would lead on the first ballot. That fact is quite insane to me. And frankly, the fact that with 70% in, he's sitting at 44% of the vote on the first ballot. Like as of now, it's not really all that close, and we still expect Cuomo to narrow that gap. But wow, we just got a small gain of votes. Cuomo gained some, Zoran gained some, Lander lost some. That's kind of been a bit of the trend. Pretty small batch that time though, so not too much to take away there.
I bet the bend markets are through the roof right now for Zoran
They
now.
are they are absolutely going through the roof.
Like I don't trust those betting markets at all. Like I mean, they did predict the Trump sleep, but I'm just saying it's like you see momentum and then bam, like those shames on a dime.
Yeah, let's keep waiting, but I would imagine the Mamdani camp is feeling quite good right now. Again,
Like I feel like Zoran right now is cautiously optimistic about this. Like he knows like Cuomo could close that gap.
that was an Cuomo just gained a few votes and Zoran lost some, but again, it was a pretty small batch. We're waiting for one of those other big dumps. It's funny because you looked at it. He led by about 9 points after the early votes came in, and you looked at that and you're like, that's a little disappointing. His ability to hold up as the election day votes come in have come on. I'm going to say it on here right now. I'm not calling it yet, but Mamdani, as it currently stands, is on track to win this race. We just got another big batch of votes, and he gained votes.
This is if you're Cuomo, you're not. This is bad news. I'm assuming whoever wins this primary is still favored to win, even though it's probably going to be a five-way race.
Cuomo should be humiliated if he actually loses this, and it's not that close. He was up 40 points in the polls, man.
And people thought this guy could have been the 2024 frontrunner early 21. In early 21.
Dude, not even that. People were saying that Biden should drop out and let him run in 2020.
I think Cuomo probably would have beaten Trump But
Maybe he would. Maybe he would have, but still, I don't know. Actually, the allegations against him started coming out in 2020. I was wrong. I think I said in my article they started coming out in early 2021, but I believe they came out starting in around late 2020. And obviously, the
yeah,
nursing home thing was already a factor.
yeah, like the scandals did. I think the whole nursing home thing started coming out right after he released the book. And I think we just got more votes where Zoran gained. Like I just saw some precincts flip from Cuomo to Zoran.
Oh, I just scrolled down on the page with the count with the boroughs and saw they actually also have results by neighborhood. That's another interesting one that I might look into. Zorn's actually dominating the neighborhoods of Manhattan. It's really just the precincts that have given a few precincts that are giving Brad Lander strength. I, Again, the Staten Island thing was kind of, oh, yep, we got some votes, and Cuomo gained to 0.1, no change for Zoran. The Staten Island thing, Staten Island is, Zoran's narrowed it to single digits in Staten Island. It's 9 points.
What was the predicted outcome there for Cuomo? Like Cuomo was expected to win by
I,
like 40 there. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I sent you that Michael Lange article about his prediction, and he had Zoran like winning by a few thousand votes. He actually had Cuomo getting 46% in Staten Island, so he was on the money on that. But he had Zoran getting 17%, and Zoran's right now 37%.
Again, we still have yet to get. We still have like a lot of precincts here and right
Yeah, we're still
here,
seventy-seven
but
percent reporting, but like we all we can say is like what we're on is what we're watching, what we're on track to see, and we're paying attention. I mean we've both done New York elections before.
yeah, I don't think like I don't. We started working together like in the Virginia, right? Like I was alone for the New York stream, and I was speech.
But we
Like
we were both paying attention. I mean,
yeah,
okay. Landers sitting down to 11.5%. He's actually lost most from election day voting.
and people thought it would have been both Zoran and Lander losing. Zoran holding up is this is actually very. I'm speechless, kind of here. Like we thought this was going to be very close, but Zoran leading by 8. He's up 71,000 votes. Earlier, he was up 46,000 votes. And if he finishes, Zoran is. I think he's going to be winning this primary. He might not even go until Lander is eliminated. It might go until like I think if he has enough support, he could lock this up when before Lander is eliminated. But
Man, sorry, went off for a second there. Wi-Fi issue. Let me see if I can see anyone else.
so right now, so
Lakeisha Jane from Split Ticket calls Mamdani a very very firm favorite. So I just read Lakeisha bring this up, and I'll bring this up to you on stream and say what you think. If you're Cuomo at this point, is this a blow that I know Cuomo is known to have a bit of an ego that might be underselling it, but what does a third party campaign look like for you at this point?
yeah, this is bro doesn't understand. Did a lot of people did AOC's endorsement change this race?
I mean, he was surging before that. I think a lot. You got to put some of this on Cuomo himself. He ran a lazy campaign. His favorabilities were garbage. His Everyone knew that he had scandals. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from Mamdani. Clearly, he ran an incredibly great campaign. But I don't want to take anything away from him. But you got to put some of this on Cuomo.
And Cuomo has been like a powerhouse in New York for decades. And him blowing a 40-point lead to a progressive state assemblyman. Jeez.
The fact that Lander has not collapsed when every other like non-Cuomo, non-Mamdani candidate has makes me think that the his getting arrested by ICE last week actually did like give him some last-minute support. We saw that in New Jersey too with Ross Becerra, where he kind of surged into second very late. I think that incident probably did actually give him some extra votes.
Which be could have been Zoran votes.
Just
Maybe
got
some
another dump.
side.
Small gain for Cuomo. Small loss for it's like point 0.1 again. It's staying pretty steady.
Wait, it's 95% in Staten Island and he's only up 9.
Yeah,
Is Staten Island or Loudoun of this election, or Loudoun County of this election?
it was certainly the first warning sign for me as E-Day votes are being reported that Cuomo was doing something was going wrong with Cuomo.
This is
Whoa, Michael Blake overtakes Jessica Ramos for second to last place. Cuomo gains a point 0.1 again with 84% in, but again he's not gaining enough.
people are like saying we might have to wait a week. Like if
Well, we will
Zoran
because
has
Zoran's at 44%.
yeah, but still we have a pretty good idea that if he's still around this mark, that he has a pretty insane shot at winning this race. Why does New York give us hype every election? Right.
New York has given us some of our best streams, I gotta say. $84 in. Very quick election for New York. We got to give them credit for that. We haven't even been a full hour since poll closing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Like Georgia was insane last year. I thought Georgia was insane last year. Like we had like 90% in by 10 o'clock.
Ooh. We're just
Yeah,
killing down the time.
New York City gives us like 80% of the vote within like an hour, but yet Arizona takes a whole week to get us to like 75%. Like, what the fuck, Arizona? For you, for everyone joining us right now, Zoran Mondani is potentially pulling off an upset of the year right now.
This isn't
He
just not just the upset of the year. This would be one of the upsets of like I can remember. I get it because he kind of surged late, but considering how far back he was, because I know that we all knew this was going to be close coming into today, but considering how far back Zoran was as recently as March, it does rank up there for me with like Alabama 2017.
well, AOC 2018, because remember,
AOC, yeah, AOC.
if AOC was not, if
Michael
he didn't,
Lange, who I've talked about a lot, has projected for Zoran.
damn.
Zoran has pulled off. It looks like, yeah.
Like, this matches AOC in 2018 because Joe Crowley he would have been the next speaker. He would be the next speaker of the House if AOC did not beat him.
Maybe.
Like he probably does overtake Hakeem because Hakeem took his spot. Do we have congressional district maps? I want to see what's going on with like.
We probably not right now, but we will.
I'm assuming Zoran's doing very well in the AOC district.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that. I'm interested to see how he's doing in I think Grace Meng's district that has a lot of Asian voters in it.
Hakeem's is in Manhattan, right?
Is it? Yeah, I think it is. So 86% in, and he has. Let me quickly do the math. He's got a 7.5 lead with 86% in. So it's narrowed a bit. We just got more votes that didn't really change anything. It's narrowed a bit, but I think he's going to be leading after round one. He might be over 40% after round one. Chaz Nuttycombe he's actually C analysis is done. He's moved on to something else, but you probably have heard of C analysis. He has projected it for Zoran. He just called it.
Wait, is it like to call it the whole race?
I mean, yeah, I think most people are assuming. I'm going to quickly send something to the chat. But
that was data for progress on March 26th, 7 to 30. Jesus Christ. Cuomo in the first round had 47% to 17 to Mondami. Eric Adams, that surprised me that Eric Adams is in here. Then Stringer, Adrian Adams.
He hadn't dropped out yet. He dropped out, I think, like a week or two later. He dropped out at the start of April.
Yeah, he would have been dominated tonight if he stayed in.
I think, honestly, he would have taken votes from Cuomo.
Yeah, that 5-person debate stage is going to go crazy.
All right. I'm going to go for a minute. I'll be back pretty soon.
All right.
We'll see if the results are finished by then. But yeah, crazy night.
Yeah, crazy night indeed. Very
I'm not able to come back. Thank you for having me on.
All right. So thank you to Dante, and we are in the midst of a political upset of the century. Andrew Cuomo getting dominated in round one of the ranked choice voting system here in New York City. The initial vote, he's down 70,000 votes to Zoran Mandami, who is a state assemblyman who was trailing in the final round 70-30, and even in the initial round was up 47-17 over Zoran. And Brad Rander was at 10%. So Rander's going around where he was. But Zoran just gained so much support in these since, and Cuomo has had a lot. Yeah, Cuomo has a ton of baggage, but this is insane. I don't know how many. I think super PACs put in over $30 million for Cuomo, I believe. So can we even use the on numbers anymore? Can we even, since he got overthrown, can we even? But I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, that's a fair assumption. Like, he's doing insane in Queens. He's doing better in Queens than Putin margins. I think that's even crazier. All right, 7-point lead for Zoran. Is Staten Island finished? I'm wondering if Staten Island is actually finished. But right now, this is the precinct map. You're looking at is the precinct by precinct map. You see that Zoran Mandami is dominating in Brooklyn. He's doing very well in Manhattan. He's doing very well in Queens. He's doing very well. He pulled the truth nuke of the century in Staten Island. This is actually, I'm speechless. Like, I was speechless earlier when his margins didn't even drop from the early vote. But if you're in Cuomo headquarters, you're panicking right now because I don't know how much more is left, but you gotta be panicking if you're in Cuomo headquarters. For progressives, this is a huge win for you. You and a single campaign made the incumbent mayor run third party. You upsetted one of the biggest political machines in New York State history. This is a huge night for progressives, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. And what Zoran is pulling in the Queens Asian community is Putin numbers. Not is insane numbers. You can't even, it's hard to describe them. Like, if you're Zoran Mandami, I would 100% try to come out and declare victory tonight. Like, it is looking like Zoran is going to be ahead by a decent amount after the first round. If you're like, I'm speechless. Again, if you're just joining us, Zoran Mondani just upset Andrew Cuomo. Like, Cuomo is down 69,000, not 69, 59,000 votes. Actually, yeah, 69,000 votes with about 90, I think it's like 90% in the whole city. And we're just at an hour after poll closings. Like, we got the early vote dumped on us all at once. And Zoran has stayed at around 44% the entire night. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo is just getting dominant. He choked in Staten Island, where he was expected to win by about 40 points in one of the Dante sources models. And Queens, where Cuomo was expected to narrowly win, he's getting dominated. I think he's underperforming in the Bronx. In Manhattan, he's trailing in Manhattan still. This, like, I'm going to be live until we get almost all the votes in. But I think this is the biggest turnout in the mayoral race in New York City, primary in New York City history, I think. And Zoran Mondani is just killing it right now. Wow. We still got to wait a week to see how long it takes for Zoran to actually win. But we expected this to be close. Maybe a Cuomo lead, a tie, fight on Dami lead, but Zoran leads by 7 points. And I think it's like 90% in. In Buffalo, New York's mayor just went down to a primary challenge. So Cuomo is preparing to run third party, but it might be the dumbest thing he might ever has done as a politician, besides the scandals. But even then, this might be the dumbest thing he might ever do. So we're aiming for more votes to come in. But if you're just joining us, I'm speechless because Cuomo is getting upsetted, and it's not even close this time. It's not even close like it was expected to be. Like, obviously, we're still waiting for a lot of votes to come in, especially in like Manhattan. I'm gonna take a little bit of a. I'm gonna go see what the. Let me just switch over to the county map right quick. There we go. We're at 88% in. Cuomo being up only 9 in Staten Island. 95%. We basically got all the votes in Staten Island. In Brooklyn, 88%. Zoran leads by 18. Queens, Zoran leads by 7. Manhattan, 88% in. 5-point lead from Zoran. 85% in Bronx. Cuomo leads by 18. So we're 88% of the way through the full vote here. And it's just, Zoran's just, he is going to be the next mayor of New York City. Oh, man. Let's go back to the here is the precinct map once again. You see here, Lander is doing pretty well here in central Manhattan. He's also doing well here in northern parts of Brooklyn. That's where Lander's doing well. But the rest, look at this, Zoran. Look at all that orange for Zoran in Manhattan. Look at all this orange along the river here for Zoran. Look at here in the Bronx, this area of the Bronx. Zoran is just dominating right now. Where he's winning, he's dominating. Where Cuomo's doing, he's not dominating. Like at Staten Island, Cuomo only leads Staten Island by 9. We got a little bit more vote coming in. It literally changed nothing. Zoran's at 417. Cuomo's at 347. 89% of the vote in. Wow. Holy shit. Wow. I'm still speechless about this whole thing. Wow. I'll be right back. My live coverage will continue until we have pretty much all the votes in. I'll be right back. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm back. So we're continuing the results. Zoran Manami still leads. Very big lead for Zoran Manami. Cuomo is gaining a little bit, as you can see. He's still gaining some, but not a lot. Um, yeah. This is still shocking. I didn't expect Zoran to have this big of a lead. Cuomo trying to revive a political career has failed. He had so much money flowing into his account from freaking super PACs, and yet he's still getting crushed by the guy who literally raised all of his money from small donors. Where is that Adrian Adams precinct? Where's it at? All right, I'll be right back once again, guys. All right, I am back. We're still live here. Let me just give you the detailed update. Where 90% of the vote in here in the primary, still a 7-point lead for Mondani. An epic polling miss right now. It's 90% in. Zoran leads 422 to 351. Brad Lander has 110,000. He has conceded. Lander has conceded. So we're just waiting on the final 10 percentage points or so. But wow, folks. Again, Zoran's big base is right here. All of this is just Zoran's big base. It's just an incredible margin here for him. He wanted to at least lead coming in, or at least have Cuomo within 2-3 points. Mondami is going to win this primary very handily. So, a very great night for Zoran Mondami. So let me tell you where the biggest support for Cuomo is. Is around the coast here. Around the coast here. And then right up here, Bronx and North Queens. That's pretty much Cuomo's best base. %90 in. Let me just go through the margins right quick. So Staten Island, Cuomo won it by 9. Brooklyn, 91% in. Brooklyn, 9% in. Mondami leads by 18. Queens, 90% in. Mondami by 7. Manhattan, 89% in. Zoran by 5. Bronx, 88% in. Cuomo by 18. And that is what the margins are right now. Amazing night for Zoran Mondami. A terrible night for Andrew Cuomo. This potentially ends his political career that's spanned decades being a HUD secretary. Holy crap. Andrew Cuomo has conceded to Zoran Mondami. Wow. Cuomo has conceded defeat. Zoran Mondami most likely will be the next mayor of New York City. Wow. Cuomo is not even going to run third party. this is too big of a loss for him to even run third party. Wow. What a night for Zoran Madami. God. What a night to be Zoran Madami. Immigrated to the United States from Uganda. I forgot Uganda, I think. Yeah, Uganda. So if Cuomo doesn't win, it's gonna be Zoran, Adams, and Silla, and the Independent. I forgot who this bro's name. I forgot the other guy's name. But it seems like Cuomo's not gonna run. So it seems like it's going to be a two-man race between Zoran and Eric Adams. We'll see what polling shows, but Zoran Madami probably is the next mayor of New York. Andrew Cuomo has conceded. Adrian Adams has not conceded. Everyone but Adrian Adams has conceded. We'll see what Cuomo's decision is with third party later on. But I'm just wanting to see how close this ends up. Again, Cuomo's not gaining much votes. Uh, if you're progressive, you're loving this right now. if you guys remember, on election night in November, when Loudon, Virginia came in with single digit, I think it was like single digit lead for Kamala. You knew something was up. Single digit lead for Cuomo and Staten Island. It's probably the fair comparison for tonight. Staten Island is Loudon in November. Loudon County, Virginia in November is a good comparison to this. Spelled bad news. Whoops, I accidentally removed my stuff. Whoops. There we go. Votes left. Nothing in Staten Island. Where we got some left in Brooklyn, some left in Queens, some left in Manhattan, some left in Bronx. Cuomo could maybe get this within 5, but it seems like it's over for him. We'll find out the congressional maps eventually, but I'm saying that Zoran probably had a good night everywhere. What a night for the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. We just got a little bit more votes. Zoran has gained votes. And here's Dante back.
Yeah, hey there. Just coming back for the end of what has been a crazy night.
This has been a very good night for Zoran Mandami.
I think I think we can probably both agree one of the more insane results we've seen in our time covering politics.
Yeah, it's insane.
Not just that Mamdani is winning, but that he is winning, quite frankly, right now. He is kind of winning and going away with it. He is going to lead at the end of the first round, which very few people expected. He's going to have more than 40% of the vote in the first round, which I don't think many people expected.
And I'm like, Cuomo has already conceded defeat.
Yes, Cuomo has conceded. Based outside of Adrian Adams, who gave kind of a weird mishmash statement. Basically, it seems that basically every candidate on here has conceded. I know that Brad Lander and Scott Stringer have, and obviously Miri Tilson, Blake Ramos. None of these candidates they're all 1% or lower.
New York always knows how to deliver some crazy night.
Now we won't get a call in this
So
race,
let
probably
me
in
just
for a
give them
week.
their, yeah, yeah. But it's basically over. Let me give them a rundown of what we got. We're pretty much done in Staten Island. The final margin, it's 9 points there. In Brooklyn, it's 92%. Zuron leads by 17. So Cuomo has been cutting down the margins. Cuomo has been cutting down the margins there. Oh, Dante is gone. So Cuomo has, and we just got some more votes. Literally just did nothing. We literally just gained like 50 votes added to the barrel. Like, I appreciate getting a lot of votes, but I'm getting votes quickly, but 50 votes per drop is not funny. So we got Queens are on 7 points, Manhattan are on for 5-point lead, Bronx an 18-point lead for Cuomo. So right now, Cuomo definitely underperformed Staten Island. That was really the telltale sign of tonight. Staten Island somehow just proved how bad of a night Cuomo was going to have.
Yeah, well, they were the ones that counted quickest. We expected that to be Cuomo's best borough, and his early weakness there was a sign that, and I think when you look at Staten Island, we all know that it's shifted right in the last few years, especially. And when you look at who Cuomo is, I think the type of Democratic voter that Cuomo appealed to at one point, I don't think I don't think that voter is a Democrat anymore in Staten Island. I think that voter is voting in Republican primaries, or at the very least not voting in Democratic ones. And as a result, the voters that remain in Staten Island in the Democratic primary are going to be further left. And I think maybe, going forward, it bears reevaluating how we think about Staten Island when it comes to Democratic primaries.
Like, I've been comparing it to the Loudon element from November, how the Kamala was underperforming big in Loudoun County, and then it quickly was followed out by Denton County and Collin County showing up in the Dallas suburbs. Like, it just all came down at once for her in those 3 counties where we expected her to do somewhat well. Like, we expected Cuomo to do well here in Staten Island, and it just didn't add up to be a good night for him there, and it ended up costing him this race probably. Like, I don't even think if he had full support in Staten Island that he was expected, I don't think it would have really mattered if his support in Queens among the Asian community especially is actually going to be accurate. Like, it is accurate. It's going to be insanely like, the margins have to be like that insane for Zeron there. That
I think if you look at it, you have to imagine that, his momentum just in the final weeks just intensified so much after that AOC endorsement. We were having trouble picking it up in polls.
Yeah, like, many people think of Trump supporters not getting picked up. Like, it's obvious that, like, we've seen that before 3 times over, that Trump supporters usually don't get get avoided in the polls, and it happened again here, but this time they failed to pick up the momentum that Zeron was getting. Like, all the big progressive figures, AOC, Bernie, all coalesced around him in the final few months and change of the campaign. And looking at Queens, like, what poll was it that he was doing insane with Asian Americans? Was it
That was the
Emerson?
Emerson. That was the Emerson. That was the one that showed him up.
So again, we've been getting votes of, we're now up to 91%.
Zoran it stayed pretty steady, honestly. Results have changed.
Oh my gosh! All right, this is a New York Times report from what Cuomo said. Zoran Mondami won before the ranked choice voting totals are tabulated. Oh my god! Cuomo has said he won. That Mondami won.
Well, and now you know the next part about this is that we wait for to see what Trump says.
Yeah.
Obviously, we would imagine the president is going to have some thoughts on this.
Yeah. The president, because the mayor, the Zoran is likely to be the next mayor of New York City, because the Republican nominee is a joke, and Eric Adams is.
Curtis Seala is not a serious human being.
It's basically Zoran versus Adams at this point.
Considering the trends in New York City, a serious Republican in a 5-way race might have had like a shot at getting to 30% of the vote, maybe 33, 35%, and winning in a 5-way race, considering, you know, its recent shifts to the right. Curtis Seala is not that Republican.
Yeah, and then I don't see Eric Adams doing well because he has been like in a lot of trouble, and plus he's been aligning himself with Trump, which alienates with a lot of Democrats.
He has not been a popular mayor.
Yeah.
George Santos has called for Republicans to unify behind Eric Adams and urges Curtis Seala to drop out.
I thought he was in prison.
No, he's not. He hasn't started it. Yeah.
But Curtis Seala, that would be smart thing to do for Republic. That would actually be smart. But would Seala drop out? I don't know. We're up to 91% in, and we got. Cuomo has been shrinking the margins a little by little, but as he has conceded, it's not going to be enough. Zoran is going to have a very decent lead after tonight, and it's only going to be a matter of like 1 or 2 rounds that he will probably win. So,
yeah, I mean, we'll wait to get to the Brad Lander elimination.
So looking at this right now, where's that Adrian Adams precinct? Because I see that she leads in one. I just can't see it in this small map here. We can see the neighborhoods here. You can see very great. The Queens has been and Brooklyn has been dominated by Zoran and the precincts. The recent updated
let me check out the precinct
tabulations has Brooklyn. The recent tabulations have getting Queen has brought Manhattan to 90, 92 to Brooklyn, 91 to Queens. We still haven't gotten any more votes from the Bronx, which should give Cuomo some more votes, but
Yeah, I wish I knew New York neighborhoods a bit better than I do. I know some people are geniuses about them. Looks like it looks like a lot of the Bradlander precincts have disappeared.
Yeah, and it turned into Zoran and Cuomo.
He was doing really well on the Upper
Mostly,
West Side earlier.
yeah. Yeah, we're not Steve Kornacki smart, so we don't know well, we know our shit, but we just don't know the shit that he
I did
knows.
some research on New York neighborhoods going into this, but not this much. But it's still interesting to be able to see this data, and you can really see where the Cuomo areas worked out and where the Zoran areas went out. And I mean, we're gonna learn a lot about this. Is going to be studied for a long time.
Yeah, this is like the on their upset of the century. Like we had a couple of those. Like I don't think anything will add up to like what happened in Alabama, but again, we haven't had like a big figure. Again, that was just like a not a big figure. Like the Republican was like a judge who had like big scandals. This is a former free 2.5 term governor, 3.5 term governor in a state in the largest city in the country.
Yeah, the money and the establishment support. He pulled in Bill Clinton in the last few weeks of the campaign.
Did Obama and Biden stay out? Well, obviously Biden's staying out. He's battling cancer, but did Obama stay out?
Obama doesn't live in New York.
True.
Here's the names that really should be acknowledged. Really should be stared at for staying out. Neither Hakeem Jeffries nor Chuck Schumer endorsed in this race.
Yeah, and both live in Manhattan, where
Both of them choosing to stay out is really the most interesting one. I think it's expected that Bill Clinton would come in. The more interesting thing to me was Hillary Clinton not endorsing when he did.
yeah, almost served in the Clinton administration.
Served alongside Robert Reich, who endorsed Mamdani. I butchered that for a second.
I believe Cuomo barely did overperform his expected number in the Bronx.
Yeah, he turned in a very solid performance there. That's exactly what we expected it, but it just wasn't enough to warn off his weaknesses everywhere else. He basically underperformed everywhere else, and yeah.
Yeah.
No, the Bronx voted. I mean, how did you expect them? You can actually see that it ended up being Adrienne Adams' strongest borough. She got 5% and finished third there. That was the only place where she finished ahead of Lander. And I'm looking at the turnout now. We're getting close to 1 million votes. That's really what I'm watching for now.
How many people voted in the primary 4 years ago?
Let me quickly look. I can pull it up on. I had the 2021 race. I took it off for a second once this ended, but I can look. 2021. New York Times said, "Oh, we've already surpassed it. It was 942,000."
God damn. All right.
Yeah, we surpassed that a while ago, and we still have more left. I expect us to break 1 million for sure. And so much was made going into this of the higher turnout being good for Cuomo. Uh, I bought that, I would say, but I never bought into it as much as some people did because we saw in the early votes that a lot of the people who were voting early were new voters. And those were new voters that I speculated were motivated by Madani's policies.
Yeah, and the thing we're gonna have to look at going forward is what the Democrats is this the model that the Democrats are gonna try and mimicate for trying to retake the House next year? Because like obviously a lot of these incumbent Democrats or these swing districts don't have people as unpopular as Cuomo. Maybe Scott Perry, but even again, like I don't think people are like Scott Perry has had a lot of scandal, but I think he's still relatively more popular than Cuomo. But like I just think that this could be where Democrats pick their uh way to run the campaign in the next 18 months. Like seeing how Zoran motivated the young voters to get out and vote for him,
He definitely did. He
which
created some
I
absurd
think
young
Trump
turnout.
did better than Kamala did in November.
I mean, you're looking at some areas here that voted for Trump,
Yeah,
in the general election last year that are
like could
backing
we like
Mondami
use that
in this
model to
primary.
get the flip the maj-
I just sent a fun little image into the group chat showing that Cuomo's best area in the Bronx was also Jamal Bowman's best area in last year's primary against Latimer.
what, what the fuck?
Yeah, if you go up to that
Like
northern part of the Bronx, that was the part that was in Jamal Bowman's district last year. He dominated Latimer there. He lost because of Westchester.
is Bowman running again?
No, but he did a lot of campaigning for Zoran.
New York definitely has given us some great elections. We had that special in 22. I don't know what we had in 23, but I don't think we had anything in 23. And obviously, we had a couple in last year where we had like that special in the third district. And then we had like the surprising, like, like we had some surprises in the congressional districts here.
You could even
But
go back to predating our streams, the 2021 mayor's race, the 2020, the number of close races in 2020, Claudia Tenney and Anthony Brindisi. A lot of competitive House seats in 2018, Jamal Bowman's primary, AOC's primary.
like we can go like Max Rose beating Dan Donovan in Staten Island.
And then getting cooked 2 years later.
I mean,
Yeah, Staten Island. It's hard to believe that Staten Island voted for a Democrat that recently.
like it's like Oklahoma City, like
It's hard.
that.
It's something that a lot of people forget is Obama won Staten Island in 2012.
Yeah, and Trump won it big in his 3 campaigns. And let's go all the way back to like 2013. Kathy Hochul, wait, no, 2011. Kathy Hochul got her start in that Buffalo district. That special. That's how Hochul got into her position that she's in now. Like New York knows how to delivers.
Yeah, there's always a lot of interesting stuff going on in New York, and this is one of the most interesting ones. And obviously, now we wait for the official call, which we will expect to get, next week. We'll wait for the rest of the campaign, as we expect he'll be, running against the incumbent mayor, and assuming he becomes mayor, we'll see what it looks. We'll see what that his mayorship looks like, because that's definitely
Yeah,
going to be interesting to see how it goes.
yeah. Since he is probably gonna, if he does win, he's gonna have to deal as the mayor of the biggest city in the country, deal with the president of the United States often.
Yeah, and of course, the New York, deal with the city council, dealing with the governor and Kathy Hochul, who is most certainly not a democratic socialist.
Yeah, Hochul is, but she's also like, you might talk to like people like Delgado, like who's running against Like, when do we ever see that? Like a lieutenant governor challenging
Oh,
their former
I didn't
running
realize you could do
mates.
this. I just saw that you could filter this New York map. You can filter it by race, by median income, and by population density. So you can
Oh,
filter out and just see the majority Asian counties, or the majority Hispanic counties, or black counties, or white counties.
yeah, I can.
I'm filtering through this. This is fun.
Oh, wow. So, and we got pretty even split. African American.
Unsurprisingly, it does look like Cuomo. He largely held up with the
That's
black vote.
Cuomo been
We don't know the exact results, and
Hispanic.
you can see that a lot of
Let's
areas.
see
This
here.
area in Brooklyn, where
Pretty.
Cuomo did really well with Hispanics in Brooklyn, but
Yeah,
you look at this area in Bronx, but you look at this area in Queens and in Brooklyn, a lot of these Hispanic areas are more Zoran,
yeah.
and then of course, not a ton of majority Asian counties in New York, precincts in New York. Cuomo did well in some of them, but there are a couple just enclaves of pure Asian Zoran counties. And I imagine that if you look at just Asian neighborhoods, I think Zoran just dominated with the Asian vote.
And looking at median income for less than 50,000, Cuomo actually doing very well.
Well, yeah, I think most
And
people
then
expect
between
him to do
50 and
pretty well.
100, Zoran doing very well with that. And then with the over 100,000, again, pretty even. And then the density, well, it seems like Cuomo is doing well with the lower, the medium. That's where Zoran is doing very well. You see in Brooklyn and Queens, and then the higher
Yeah.
density. So we're going to get a lot of Manhattan. Yep, Zoran. Wow, very good. This is actually. I wish they'd do this more with other maps, but that is actually very nice.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
the England is.
there's going to be a significant amount of just, studying, I think, what happened here.
Yeah, it is gonna be the post mortem is gonna be very, very in very into the how Cuomo fumbled a 40-point lead in 2.5 months.
Yeah, I mean, we'll,
And their update on
yeah,
what we're where we're at. So Cuomo's lead is no, Zoran's lead is 428 to 358. So that's about 70,000 votes with 91% in still.
I don't know if they'll finish counting all these tonight, but obviously, it's really just about waiting now until the results are finalized.
The RCV is gonna, especially the lander vote, that would put Zoran over the top. But the question is, how close is the final result going to be after RCV? Well, obviously, Zoran leads right now by 7. So, does he hit 60? That's the like. Does he get? How close does he get to 60? Maybe. Like,
Are you talking about in the final after the ranked choice
yeah,
tabulation? I
yeah.
don't know,
Like,
but I
how
think
close?
he can definitely win by double digits.
Yeah, like how close could he get to like 60 points? Like that is gonna be an interesting dynamic. Like we're gonna have like remember, getting 51 means you win without any more rounds. So if Lander's still in and then Mondami still gets over 50, Lander's votes do not get retabulated. We'll see what Eric Adams has to say. Has Eric Adams released a statement?
He's just like declaring he's committing his run. I'm looking at a lot of the precincts stuff here, and it's just like it's ridiculous. And we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, later on. I can't really get into all of it on stream, but it's crazy, and you have to imagine that this really enthuses progressives in New York City. We've heard a lot in recent days about the possibility of Brad Lander running for Dan Goldman against Dan Goldman, Michael Blake against Richie Torres, and you have to imagine those efforts are going to go into overdrive now, especially against Torres, who has really angered a lot of progressives.
And then maybe get someone against Vladimir, someone against like those
One of the things,
moderates in Brooklyn.
here's what I would look out for. Andrew Espilia did a lot of work for Cuomo. That's someone I could see them taking action against, and obviously Chuck Schumer is going to be a big part of a big target going down the line.
Yeah, he's currently the minority. Like,
The
when
real
was the
test is,
last when was the last time a leader lost a primary? Like
well,
a
obviously
Senate
all
leader
the
lost a
conversation
primary.
is about AOC. Here's the real test one. The real test one is if someone tries to primary Hakeem.
Yeah, taking down possibly the incoming Speaker of the House is going to be big.
Pulling off
Like,
Dan Brat, trying to pull off a Dan Brat.
oh my
David
god,
Brat, sorry. Daniel Brat. Was it David Brat? It
Dave,
must have been David Brat.
David Brat. Yeah, he
Yeah.
lost to, and then bro lost to Spamberger
Yeah, his
4 years
district.
later. It's crazy how the Tea Party thought like a lot of the Tea Party guys like in swing districts basically are all gone now. Like
Yeah, Eric Cantor, McCarthy, Ryan.
yeah, like they were called the Young Guns. Cantor primary, Paul Ryan retired, and then Kevin McCarthy was ousted.
Resigned.
I still can't believe that happened. I like like this decade has been bringing some shocking moments. Like a speaker getting overthrown, that tops like tops the list. Seeing the a former president almost getting assassinated on live TV is also was insane. But this political moment here, having the former 3.5 term governor of New York, I believe it was 3.5 terms, right? Since 2010.
I mean, yeah, he won 2010, 2014, 2018. It was
Yeah,
honestly more like it was almost 4 full terms. It was almost three.
three
Yeah, three and a half.
terms.
3.5. No,
Yeah,
it was like wouldn't have been 2.5 because he'd been elected to 1 term and then elected to a second term. Oh no, it would
in
have
the
been 3.5. He
third.
was elected to 3 terms. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he served 10 years, so 3.5 terms. He probably was going to run for re-election if that whole scandal didn't happen. But taking down a guy who's been in politics that long, like, it's correct. Like, Cuomo obviously has been, I think his mission is trying to get back to the governor's mansion somehow. And this was like a stepping stone to it, and he just got slapped in the face. Like, I think nobody is gonna forget what he did during his final year in office. And the like, how much money was poured in by super PACs? I've seen this guy
Massive amount on behalf of Cuomo.
like
I was seeing as high as
this,
like 24 million by Cuomo's
yeah,
super PAC.
yeah. This guy named Stalking the Capitol. That's what his like. Have you seen that guy on TikTok or his Instagram Reels? I've been getting
Sounds
that
a
guy
little
a lot.
familiar.
Yeah, he basically goes into like the stocks of or like the finances of every member of Congress, and he went. He basically ran
Yeah.
pro Zuron basically because of how bad Cuomo find like PACs were. Like, it's insane.
Before the stream ends, I think we should give a shout out tonight to the New York Board of Elections on a much, much better cycle than they've had in the past.
Yeah, this like
And
even
2021, this was a
last year.
disaster.
Yeah, even last year with the Suffolk County, it was like it took forever to even get their first results. But this has been a very well uh, done election. Like you got to
It's
also give out the shout outs to like Georgia for last year's, like how fast they did it last year. Even though it didn't end in our favor, Georgia did it very quickly and efficiently, and New York City adopted that model, and it was very, very well done. And obviously Alaska, but it's probably too soon to go into how Alaska does their ranked choice voting. But I think this is where we ended it here, Dante. Thank you for coming by. And well, the post mortem of this is going to be very intense, but that ends it here. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you, New York City, for having a very good run, greatly run, efficient election. Thank you to the New York Times for giving us more tools than ever before to look at how this election has been breaking down. And thank you to you guys for continuing to stick with me for 6+ years of election coverage, hoping for more, hoping I get to a decade soon. And thank you guys so much for watching this stream. Dante, I'll see you soon.
See you.